Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast. My name is Scott. I'll be your host today. Got a great show for you today. Got a great guest. Can't wait to bring him on. We'll do that in just a moment. As always, you can find this in the back episodes of our podcast at our website. It's called ordinarymarathoner.com. You can also find them on the aggregators, places like Stitcher and TuneIn and iTunes. If you like the show, hit that subscribe button. You'll never miss a new episode that way. You can also find us now on YouTube. The audio for all our podcasts are downloaded to YouTube, along with a few videos that Stephanie and I put together. Just been working on that, trying to build up the channel a little bit. Hopefully I'll get some tips from our guests later today. We're going to check that out and try to learn some things from them. What else we got? We got a Twitter account. You can find me at Ord Marathoner. That's O-R-D Marathoner. If you follow me there, I'll follow you back. We can get the conversation going on over there, or head on over to our discussion group at Facebook. It's called Ordinary Marathoners. It's a closed group. You got to add yourself to it. We'll approve you right away as soon as I see it. And then you can join the conversation over there. You could be a lurker. You could do whatever you like. It's a really friendly crowd over there. That's the way I like it. That's the way I like to try to keep it. Very supportive group, and whether you are a newcomer to running and you're just starting and you're just thinking about getting off the couch, or whether you are a ultra marathoner, we got people over there from all skill levels, and like I said, a real friendly crowd. They answer all your questions. You can post your workouts. You can do whatever you like. It's a good crew over there. Anyway, back to our guest for today. He's the host of the most popular triathlon podcast on iTunes and an incredible YouTube channel as well, Triathlon Taren. Welcome to the show, Taren.
Thanks for having me here.
Great. Now let me ask you this: would you prefer to be called Triathlon Taren or Taren Gazelle?
Just Taren.
Just Taren.
Dude with a weird girl's name.
All right, we'll go with that then. I think. So I got to tell you, a couple months ago, I'm on YouTube, and being a sort of content creator myself, I look up a lot of videos, and I kind of stumbled on your channel, and for some reason it just sort of grabbed me, and I started watching a lot of your video, and you produce them often, like almost daily, I would say. There's a new Triathlon Taren video. And I guess I kind of looked at it from my perspective. Now, I've been doing this podcast here for about 2 years. This is actually episode 99 today. And, yeah.
No way. Wayne Gretzky number.
Yeah, Wayne Gretzky. Although you were one away from the century mark, I had to hold that out for something special. Of course, I actually have no idea what that's going to be. But watching and seeing all the work that you do and all the content you create and put together and how you do it, I think it's something from where I am, I could see myself kind of going in that direction and doing the things that you do, because it's that impressive. It's sort of very motivating for a guy like me. And I guess my question for you to start off would be, how did Triathlon Taren start? And, this is sort of a broad question, I guess. And ultimately, what is the mission? What's driving you?
Well, it started, I want to say it's about 3.5 years ago now. I think it was sometime in April of, I'm Canadian, so the math is going to be tough for me, like 2015. I was an investment advisor, and I wasn't really happy being an investment advisor. I had all these fancy letters in behind my name of like certified financial planner and fellow of the Canadian Securities Institute. And I'd committed myself to doing that kind of career-wise, but mentally it never really felt right. And after about 5 years of building up a small investment practice, I just knew that it wasn't going to be what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I decided to start anything on the side that wasn't about investments. And I thought to myself, when am I happiest in life? And I thought for a few weeks off and on, I'm like, well, is it curling? Because I used to be a curler. Is it weightlifting? I still wasn't like 100% lifestyle, all encompassing around triathlon. But I thought, you know what? The best time that I have throughout the week is these Tuesday and Thursday morning cycling rides with a group, with a bunch of friends, where we go and just pin it a bunch of times with sprints and test ourselves, and then go for coffee after and have a bunch of fun. So I decided to start a website and a YouTube channel based off of that. And that was how it started. And I never had, when I was starting out, a mission or even the thought that it was going to turn into anything more than just something that I did on the side to take my mind off of this job that I didn't like. But I just kept doing it a little bit more and a little bit more because I was enjoying it all along the way. And if we have to have a mission now, I've actually been thinking about this over the last couple of weeks as we've had some pretty long flights and a lot of time to do some soul searching and thinking. I think it's to help people be just a little bit better every single day. And triathlon is a really good gateway drug to open up a new style of life that is more risk-taking, more confident, more fulfilled, healthier, has a little bit of excitement to it. And to be just that little bit better every single day, it's not such a daunting thing that people can't take on the challenge of doing a triathlon. So I think there's a mission statement in there somewhere. We haven't really fleshed it out, but it's something along those lines.
Yeah, and there is. I asked you this really broad question, and then there's a lot to unpack here. I mean, we can go any direction, but because I feel like a lot of what you just said really connects and resonates with me. I'm a couple years kind of behind your progression, but I started out with sort of the same thought process, I guess, as you went through, which is let's try to create something and let's try to put something out there, and it's something productive to do with your time. I don't know if that was maybe coming off. I'm in finance right now. So, I'm kind of where you were maybe 3.5, what'd you say, 5 years ago, I guess. Where I have this need to be creative and to provide some kind of like bridge between me and people. So, when it's kind of weird, like, I guess, I don't know, I'm trying to think how to present this to you, but, you've done a lot with this thing over the last 3.5 years since you started it. When so you started the website, did you know it was going to be a YouTube channel as well? Was the YouTube thing right in the beginning?
Yeah, originally what it was is it was going to be a website. It was a commercial thing right off the start. It was a commercial thing, and I was going to sell triathlon nutrition products. And my hook to bring people to the website was that I was going to do video reviews on these nutrition products like gels and chews and bars and give tips about them. And really quickly I found out that I didn't really like doing the website stuff about it as much as I enjoyed doing the YouTube channel. So for a time there was no website, even though the website was the very first thing that started, and it was just a YouTube channel. And eventually it broadened from just triathlon nutrition products, because when it came right down to it, people just go to their local bike shop and buy whatever's on the shelf or whatever they like, and they're not consuming hours of YouTube content about what the best gel is. And I wanted to do other creative things. So as new video ideas would come to mind, I would many times, fortunately, because it was my own investment practice, I'd like call in air quotes sick, and I'd call my assistant and be like, you got it today, right, Christine? And she's like, yeah, everything's fine here. I'm like, perfect. I'm going to shoot a video about Speedos at home. And not show up.
I'm glad I missed that one. That's not one of the ones that I saw.
Oh, give it time. It'll research.
It'll pop up there.
There's more Taren Speedo out there in the interwebs than ever needs to be.
Well,
that was kind of how it came about.
What's kind of interesting about that, and I know that I've actually stumbled across another one of your videos where you kind of mention, and there's a certain aspect of what we do that a certain crowd of people, they almost take it's like a disdain, or like. Like people, he's just trying to make money. He's just trying to review products, or he's just wearing that to make money, or he's just producing YouTube videos to make money. And you sort of approach this topic in one video, and it's no one's getting rich off of doing podcasts except for like Joe Rogan.
Oh yeah. He's getting all kinds of rich.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's like the step down from like Joe Rogan and Adam Carolla and Malcolm Gladwell or whoever is like, it's not us. It's
no.
There's like a whole lot of nothing between successful podcaster and your average, I guess average, I'd say average because I include, but you have the top triathlon podcast out there. But
it still doesn't. It to be perfectly honest, it still doesn't really pay the bills.
Well, that's what I mean. It's
the
very
podcast
difficult.
itself, the YouTube channel itself, they still, if looking at them in isolation, they still don't pay the bills. Maybe kind of by relation. Like if I were to cobble everything together, I could make a very poorly paying job myself. But to turn this Triathlon Taren thing into an actual business, it's got to be more than just a podcast. It's got to be a bit of a following with products and things like that. And I think people underestimate how much work it actually is to do something like this, and how poorly YouTubers and podcasters are paid, and that people that keep doing it like you obviously love it a lot.
Right. You have to love it.
Because we're not doing it to get rich just off the podcast or the YouTube channel or the Instagram following or whatever it is.
Yeah, you know what though, there's something there, right? And I think for me, because there's been times, and I don't know if you've ever stumbled across this over your last 3.5 years, but there's been times for me over the last 2 years where I think maybe I should pack this thing up and give it, and call it quits and just focus on training or whatnot. But there's always those connections that you make with certain people. And I find that in triathlon especially, and running in general, because my podcast is more of like a running, I guess, podcast, although I've kind of started traveling down the triathlon path a little more intently lately. But it's the relationship. 90% of the people that you meet in this sport are like the most amazing people. And they're, they give you honest feedback, good feedback. They're looking for motivation themselves. They give you, they tell you the truth. They tell you, how much you mean to them in terms of, if they're listening to the podcast or if they're participating in your discussions, if you have an online kind of social media presence. And it's those relationships that are just have become so special that keep me going. And is it the same for you? I mean, I'm sure you must have forged a lot of, even just outside of your own home in Vancouver and your coach and outside of that, you had to have some sort of stories where someone reached out to you and said, hey, just so you know, like I achieved this and I would have never have done that had I not, heard you or watched you. You probably get that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what makes this so worthwhile when there are those times that I feel I've never had a feeling like I should pack it in. It's always been so much fun that I've kept going.
Yeah.
But there are times I'm like, oh, I got to shoot a video today. And maybe I'm sick or not motivated or just not creatively inclined and have to come up with something. But the times that I get to meet people, and I think back to just last week when I was in South Africa, young girl came up and she was missing an arm. And I didn't get into why she was missing an arm, but she said that about 1.5 years ago, she got into triathlon to challenge herself and see what she could do and prove to everyone that you don't have to be this amazing Instagram fit person with abs to do everything, that even people like her who were challenged could overcome all of that. And just 1 year later, she made it to the half Ironman World Championship, and she's the one that did the work. And I can make all the videos in the world that I want to, but she's the one that has to put in the effort to do it. But the fact that she said to me, like, you really helped me at the start understand just how to swim, like what should I focus on, and the fact that I was like a little sliver of her journey is the reason that we keep doing this, and it feels important. Like everyone wants to have some sort of sense of contribution to the world, and the fact that I can be a little part of people's journey to live a healthier, more fulfilling life is like it gets. There's probably one time every single week that I get a little bit teared up by a story like that, or something along those lines.
Yeah, and that's the kind of inspiration, I guess, that just keeps you motivated and keeps you going. Just to know that just you producing those videos can make such an impact on somebody else's life that you don't even know. And for someone who's missing an arm to compete in the World Championships, you got to be kidding me. That's incredible.
Yeah, it was incredible. Pretty cool.
All right, so to rewind back,
she did
she did awesome.
She did awesome. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. And how do you, the thought of swimming with one arm, I don't even want to, that's incredible. It's incredible. You see some amazing things.
Two arms.
All right. Exactly. You just see some amazing things in this sport. So anyway, I do want to rewind back to one other thing. So it's kind of like one other thing that you and I have in common is I think that at least in the beginning of my story, when I started doing these endurance events, it's a weight loss story. I weighed 280 pounds and I needed to lose some, and I started running and I just sort of embraced the sport. Wound up doing my first marathon, and I lost about 65 pounds doing it. And, I've been keeping that off to a certain degree, for the last 4 years, but you had a bit of a weight loss story as well. And now did the weight loss have anything to do with it, to how you started? Or was it more, I guess, let me try to frame it this way. Was this a weight loss story? Like, did you want to lose weight and then triathlon became the vehicle, or did you want to be a triathlete and then weight loss was the result?
Kind of neither. I started losing weight in my mid-20s while I was at university, and I did it like a lot of young 20-something people do. I went to the gym and drank a bunch of protein shakes and boiled chicken and pretended like I was going to be a bodybuilder. And I went from about 215 pounds down to around 180, 175. But because it's I don't know, it's kind of a sick lifestyle or gross. Like, it's not a fun lifestyle to be a bodybuilder, not be able to eat anything and not really enjoy your time out because you can't eat anything and you don't talk to anyone at the gym. You just go and put on earphones and lift heavy weights, and nothing really stuck there. Like, the diet didn't stick. So I fluctuated up and down for years at about 175 to 185 pounds. And eventually I ended up getting hurt from lifting weights. And I started walking on the treadmill one day because I had to do something. And then walking on the treadmill was really boring. So then I interspersed it every other day with riding a bike, on a stationary bike. And then I was like, oh, this is really boring. So then every third day I would then go in the pool. And then I ended up thinking, you know what? I think I could do a triathlon because I got to do something to stay fit. And triathlon wasn't the reason for the weight loss, and it wasn't the vehicle to weight loss, but it was the reason that a healthy lifestyle stuck. So when I got into triathlon, my weight kind of it moderated at 170, 175 pounds, but I had a reason to keep working out that I enjoyed and had a really fun time with. And as a bodybuilder, like, you can come up with the excuse of like, oh, I'm just putting on my winter pounds and I'm going to shed it later. But as a triathlete, you're always worried about being healthier and fitter and just overall living a better life. So it started becoming a much more balanced approach to weight loss, and more just, instead of counting calories and thinking about weight loss, it was more about being healthier. And it was kind of the thing that made a healthy lifestyle stick.
So would you say it's like an addiction? Like, do you have an addiction to triathlon these days, or like a healthy addiction?
I have an addiction to a lot of things.
That coffee powder that you make in the morning, the coffee.
Yeah, I have a very addictive personality, and throughout my life that has hurt me as much as it's helped me. When it comes to triathlon, it's a healthy addiction. It's a good thing to be addicted to, in my opinion, as long as it's kept within some barriers, I think, to how it's approached. Right.
Now, so it's kind of interesting here, and I find this. So when I think about the sport of triathlon, and I think about what you do in particular, and in particular, what I'm going to reference now is you do these sort of like news reports on triathlon, like sort of the world of triathlon and certain races and things that are happening in the sport. And I think you try to do them weekly. I don't know if that's like a on purpose thing or not. But it seems to me like you're making a small effort to, I guess, almost bring triathlon mainstream. Now, I don't know if that's sort of in your thinking or in your thought process, but when I think about it, I think here's this amazing sport that takes really amazing athletes to compete, to be competitive, to win an Ironman. You have to, I mean, the athleticism of these people that can win an Ironman is insane. And the people who do it are, top-notch athletes worldwide. They're just incredible athletes. And yet they're not as famous as, say, a LeBron James in basketball, a Tom Brady in football. And and yet this is a sport, and this is sort of my diatribe here. This is my my rant. Yet this is a sport that at its base level anyone can compete in. Now, granted, you and I could probably jump in in some kind of like local league basketball or something like that. It seems to me like this sport is just way, way underreported. And guys that are in like the top 10, top 5, top 10, like they should be household names, yet they're not. Have you ever given that a thought as like maybe this is a sport that can grow in terms of in terms of like the broad scope and recognition in terms of publicity, I guess, and how the public sees it. Do you ever think about it that way?
Not necessarily. I firmly believe that it's a niche sport and will probably always be a niche sport because of a lot of reasons. It's expensive to do. Just getting a bike alone, even an entry-level bike.
This is true.
$1,000, and by the time you add on a race and some travel for it and some shoes and entries to a local pool, like to do your first race, you're probably into it for $1,000 to $2,000. And it's a very intimidating sport, specifically for the swim. A lot of people are afraid of the swim, and the distance of it is intimidating. And I think it takes a special kind of person that is wired a little bit kooky to take a look at that and be like, hey, you know that race that like people poo themselves going over the finish line? I want to do that. So I don't think we're ever going to get to the point that everyone in the world is going to do it. There are certain pockets of the world where in Australia it's more commonplace, but actually as a whole, the industry is shrinking right now. And I think that goes to show it's shrinking because there's a lot of athletes that are going and doing the fun runs and the Spartan runs and the things that are easier to access because really all you need is a pair of shoes and $50 to enter.
Right.
And you get a really cool Instagram photo out of it. I think that actually triathlon needs to, if not reinvent itself, but just kind of have something new out there to appeal more to the masses, because right now it's I think a bit too intimidating that it's destined to be a niche sport until it has something that's easier to access or cooler.
Right. I guess I can kind of see that. I do, I kind of started triathlon maybe two years ago, a year and a half ago, myself. So I'm still kind of getting the lay of the land and how it's all set up. And I remember as a kid, I think I out-age you. I'm 44, so I think I'm a little older than you. But when I was a kid, they used to put the Ironman championships on. It would be like Wide World of Sports, right? So and once a year, you'd be sitting there on the weekend. You'd flip through the channels, and all of a sudden you'd see it. And they just do an incredible job sort of covering the sport. And taking a broad look at Ironman, the brand in general, which I know like a lot of triathletes kind of, I guess, the shudder at the branding thought because of all the goings on and stuff from a corporate side. But seeing how it's expanded since I think I want to say it started like 40, 50 years ago. And then I know Ironman Lake Placid just had their 20th anniversary, and seeing all the different races that are now out there. Now, granted, they don't all sell out. But is it sort of hit the peak with all these? I mean, there's just tons of races now.
What's happening is a lot of the grassroots events, the non-Ironman events, the local sprint triathlons and the local Olympic distance triathlons, or even the local non-branded half Ironman or full Ironman events. Like there's an event in Duluth called Superior Man, and it's just not branded that way. Those types of events are starting to see their numbers dip quite a bit, where Ironman is like at the black hole of triathlon. It's doing quite well, and it's expanding all the time and acquiring new races. And for all the corporatism that Ironman and the World Triathlon Corporation, which is now owned by Wanda Group out of China, for all the bad, I think, vibes that they get from the triathlon community, I think that it's offside, because the amount of lives that Ironman changes, and call it what you want, like I don't really care if it's one corporation or 12 corporations, the fact that they are a part of changing so many people's lives and motivating them to live that more exciting life, more power to them. And if the branding has to come with it, I'm all for it. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword that the local races are going away and this big corporation is getting bigger, but that's life. Look at any industry. Look at what Amazon has done. Look at what Walmart has done. Like, this is the world today, and to blame it on one corporation, I think, is unfair.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with that. As a matter of fact, let's talk about that a little bit more. Let's hit the break right now, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more with Taren Gazelle. Hey guys, my friend Lauren is creating an incredible resource for runners and triathletes. It's called raceadvisors.com. She has amassed a list of thousands of races, 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, marathons, ultramarathons, and triathlons, and anything in between. If you're thinking about running a race, look it up and check out the reviews. Have a favorite race of your own? Look it up. See what others have to say about it. Or better yet, leave a review of your own. raceadvisors.com. Read it, race it, review it. I may not have a lot of hair, but I tell you, I know style when I see it. And I know you guys and gals with the flowing locks, you need something functional to keep that hair out of your face when you go on your daily run. And I have just the thing for you. It's called Greasy Girl Headbands. And I know what it sounds like, but it's not spelled that way. It's GREECIE, girlheadbands.com. They make headbands that are specially designed for the runner to keep that hair out of your face, out of your eyes when you're out there on your daily run. So check them out. GreasyGirlHeadbands.com, GREECIE, and find a design that's perfect for you. All right, we're back from the break with Taren Gazelle. So, Taren, I think you and I seem to have a lot in common, and we talked about a lot of that stuff, I guess, in the beginning of the podcast. But the kind of reason why I wanted to go to the break there was because I think when you talk about Ironman, the brand, when you talk about like sort of the layperson, the non-triathlete, and I consider me to be sort of that person before. I never ever thought I'd run a marathon and wound up doing it. And then, after the marathon, I kind of, my training hit a lull, and I was looking for that next great challenge. And, to me, I didn't know anything about triathlon. The only thing I knew was Ironman, and that was just from watching TV and all that. And so I just took my next challenge, was I just decided to sign up for an Ironman, which I did. And I've actually, and this is where we differ. And the only reason I know we differ this way is because I watch your videos. But, so I started the complete opposite end of you when it comes to triathlon, which was I decided to take the biggest nut out there and go after it. And I went after a full Ironman without ever doing any other triathlon. And still I have never done a smaller event. And I guess I kind of do want to, and I want to try. But I think you're on the other end of that spectrum where, you've done a lot of smaller events, but you've yet to sort of go for that big apple.
Yeah. And it all depends on how you want to approach the sport. A lot of people want to approach it from the standpoint of, what's the biggest event that they can finish? From my standpoint, I look at it as what's the fastest I can go in the next distance that I feel I can have more control over than it has of me. So if you look at just the athlete development cycle of Olympic athletes or really any of the competitive athletes that race, specifically, it's this way in half Ironman distance events. They're athletes who started with the under 17 and under 19 triathlon system with sprint races or even super sprints. And then they graduated up to Olympic distance events. And then they graduated up to half Ironman events and then full Ironman. And what they're doing at each point is building speed from one to the next. and the fastest they're going to be able to go comes from a progressive load of building from shorter distances to longer distances, trying to keep the speed that they had from those shorter distances and bring it into the longer distance. Now, if they had just gone from being a 17-year-old into Ironman, they wouldn't be able to do that, because you need to progressively build the amount of speed that you can carry for a duration of time. And that's just the point that I'm taking myself. So I want to, at some point, qualify for the World Championships in Kona, and I know that I've got to be fast for it. So to do that, I've got to build up speed from one distance to the next, and that's why I'm doing that. And I do catch a fair bit of flack online because I haven't done a long distance event, and I said something once where I said I feel sorry for people who just went to an Ironman, and I think what I left out there is that I feel sorry for the people that do it, have a bad experience, and then leave the sport. And what the stats say is that in any given year, if there are 200,000 people that compete in an Ironman branded event, 80,000 of them, 40%, will be gone the next year. And the majority of that 40% are the first-time athletes. And when they dig into the data a little bit more, it's because they've had a poor experience and it's been so painful. So that's why I say I feel sorry for them, because it just lends itself to the odds kind of pointing at them towards being a one and done athlete.
Right.
And that makes me sad, because triathlon is a fantastic sport that people can do for their entire life. And to just go in, have a bad experience, and then leave, that's what makes me sad.
Well, and I do want to make it clear that I wasn't trying to be critical of you for not competing in a full Ironman. I actually think there's a lot of validity to what you've said and what you've presented. And I think I wouldn't look at it as sad. And I'll tell you why. Is I think that people in general they're kind of wired differently. And I think to a certain degree, the way I was wired at that time was I liked to get the big event. I liked to get the big accomplishment. And that's the thing where you get people who finish the full Ironman, they get the tattoo, and then they put 30 pounds on, which is what I didn't get the tattoo, but I put the 30 pounds on. And then I think I've kind of had a mental reversal about, so like the first 2 years ago, I trained the whole year. I accomplished my goal in finishing, and I didn't have a bad experience in that. I finished, I got my goal. But I remember being out there at mile 70 something on the bike, going, "Why the hell am I doing this? This is insane." So from a pain angle, yes, but once you finish the race, then there's appreciation, and which is why I wouldn't be too sad. I knew what I was getting into. I knew it was going to be painful, and going through it was what I wanted to do, and I did it. So, and I think that's why you get a lot of people that quit. It's just because they wanted to do it, and that was their goal, and they did it, and they're done now. But afterwards, I kind of realized that, and I went up and did Ironman Lake Placid a couple of weeks ago, and I DNF'd. And it was because I didn't really train very hard. And kind of what I realized just being in the town of Lake Placid was that, like you've discovered, is that if you want to be a triathlete and you want to be as good of one as you can, it's a commitment, it's a lifestyle. And you either have to want to be that and commit to that lifestyle and have the discipline to do that, or you don't. And you don't, and it's okay not to. But if you really want to be competitive, as you have found out and as I've found out, you have to live the lifestyle. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There aren't a lot of people that are fluking their way into being fantastic triathletes.
And I can totally, I totally appreciate, the way that you've approached it and the way you have, started with the smaller races and gotten better at them. And now, and I mean, you're pretty competitive in your age group. I didn't look at the actual, your finish for the last half that you just did. But, you got to be feeling good about where you are right now and your progression to this point.
Yeah. the biggest thing that I'm enjoying about this year is that this year I've had 2 half Ironman races, both of which went exactly according to plan. I was healthy. I didn't get sick all year, didn't get injured. Got to live the triathlon lifestyle without the downsides of it that come with injury and sickness occasionally and burnout. I didn't have any of that. And it's more about being able to continue progressing uninterrupted that I'm having a lot of fun with, as opposed to like, oh yeah, I got this killer time and that's why I'm happy. It's more the journey of the entire year that I've had a blast with. And because I'll let you in on a secret. I don't like racing. I actually prefer to train, and the racing can, like, I could take it or leave it. But the being able to train consistently, I love.
Yeah, and I think, that's kind of what I've discovered over the last year is that, you have to either immerse yourself in the lifestyle and get into the training and enjoy the training for what it is, as opposed to just doing it for the race and the accomplishment. And if that's what you want to do, then that's the way it has to be done, the way you're doing it, and the way I'm starting to kind of realize that I have to come around to, which I enjoy. So it's good that I see, when I watch videos like the ones you're creating, it's definitely like, hey, like that's, the way that guy's doing it, like that's the way to do it, like getting your workouts in every day and doing all that stuff, and it's motivating.
I'll say that that's the way that I feel I need to do it. And I get when other people don't want to train every single day and only have time to do it for work commitments or family commitments and to do it 3 or 5 times a week, or they just want to go into a race to finish and not be competitive. It's cool. I get it. Like, do whatever you want, and whatever time you end up with is whatever you end up with, as long as you're having fun with it. And I think one of the best things about the sport is that it's something people can do into their 80s. And if it's something that they are able to keep doing for a lifestyle for years to come, if that's what they want, that's what's important to me. And I'm just kind of like, hey guys, this is what I do. If you want to get better, here's some things that I've found help make me better. But like, if people just want to do it to finish, more power to them. I get it. I mean, I did a marathon swim last summer of 37 kilometers, and that was something that I just wanted to do to finish, and don't have any intention to do another one for quite a while. So I get it. It was a challenge of finishing.
Yeah. Yep. So I guess, you kind of get a good understanding for it in both directions, I guess. Whether, your accomplishment is to want to finish or want to accomplish something, or you want to, embrace yourself in a lifestyle and sort of that triathlon training, like you mentioned. And, I think that's kind of where the point that I'm at, where it's just like, I kind of like this training stuff and it keeps me in good shape, and and it's a good use of my time, as opposed to, I play way too much Madden sometimes. And it's healthy, and there's, it's just all a good, I think there's nothing bad about it. And so the more I feel like I embrace it, the better the results become. It's just the way I look at it, which does beg the question that I have to ask of you. Why do you live in Vancouver?
Well, it's actually Winnipeg.
I'm sorry.
Even worse.
I'm a silly American. Of course, worse. I get those wrong.
Yeah, Winnipeg is smack in the middle of Canada on the bald prairies, and the joke is that it's so flat and unscenic here that you can watch your dog run away for 2 days. And it gets cold here. We had a snap of about 5 weeks straight last winter where it was minus 40, which is the same Celsius as it is Fahrenheit. So it's as bad as it sounds, for about 5 weeks straight. And I live here grudgingly because my wife, who is known as No Triathlon Kim, because she doesn't do triathlons, she's very attached to her family here. And I spend a lot of time in a garage that we've outfitted to be my training studio, and on virtual bike riding software called Zwift. So there is a lot of time spent inside in the winter. And it's not a training mecca, I will say that.
I did say I saw your training garage, and I pointed out to my wife when I was watching one of your videos. I was like, "Look, we got to put one of these in the backyard." I don't think she was having it.
Yeah, I think I may have caused some fights amongst a few.
Like, look, I want that. Couples. I want that in my yard.
See, Taren says that we need to build it.
Instead, I'm stuck in my basement, which is fine. But you do, it seemed to me like you do brave the cold weather at times. You do go out. I mean, what? Now I'm gonna just totally make myself look like a wimp, but like I won't cycle if it's like 50 degrees.
Yeah, wimp.
So go ahead. What do you got? Like, what's the coldest? If you wake up in the morning and you look, what's the temperature have to be for you to say, looks like I'm indoors today?
For 2 years I bike commuted all year round. So even down to minus 35, minus 40, I still bike commuted with studded tires on snow. And I still maintain, this is my finger in the air moment here for the podcast, I maintain that it is warmer and more pleasant to do than driving to work. Because instead of being cold in Canada, when it's that cold, it takes 20 minutes for your car to warm up. So you're driving in this ice box for the entire ride to work, and then you got to walk 3 blocks from wherever you park. But with a bike, you're only cold for about 30, 45 seconds until you pedal a little bit. And then the parking spot is like right in front of whatever office building you're at, because you just lock up to whatever sign you can. And I maintain it was even better. However, running, I'll say running, there's a hard stop at minus 30.
Mine's like, my running threshold's like 40. I'm just, I don't know. I have the treadmill and the bike in the basement, and it's funny because I remember I had a conversation, and I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Rocky IV. When Rocky went against the Russian Drago. So there's a whole training scene where they show Rocky training in the mountains and outdoors in the snow, and then the Russians just in the gym constantly with all this equipment. And the thing is, when you watch that movie, you're like, wow, I always would want to train like Rocky. But I find I don't know if it's the age or it's just the convenience of having it in my basement over the years. And now I just train more like Drago. I just would almost rather be on the machines. It's like, I don't know, it might rain. There's like 10% chance of rain. I'm staying inside. Like,
you got all the wires attached to you. Meanwhile, your buddies are out chopping wood in the fields.
Right. I don't know. I just have a very low threshold of cold that I would just almost rather be indoors, and it shouldn't be like that. I need to grow a pair, I guess.
I don't recommend training outside. I got a really fun story about it, about cycling throughout the winter, but other than that, nothing good came of it.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, and I know you mentioned this on your show once or twice, there's a triathlete named Lionel Sanders, Canadian, who has a YouTube channel, who I've been watching. And one of the things that he said was he does a lot of his bike training indoors. And the reason was, or at least the reason he gave, was that he tried to ride outside for like 4 years, and he got hit by a car 4 times, and he decided that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that's my fear.
Really well known for spending almost all of his time indoors on a bike trainer. And you get some really good quality workouts in that way. It's a balance of, you're giving up excitement of being outside and seeing scenery and being with friends versus a really good quality workout and being safer. Yeah.
And I don't know. I've always just, I have trails near me, but they're all flat. And when you race in Lake Placid, it's not flat. It's there's a reason they call them the Adirondack Mountains and not the Adirondack Flats. But it's so I go on the trail because it's safer. And I do sometimes I'll try to push it, just stay in the highest gear so that it just gives me a little more tension. But it's not the same. And I don't know. For some reason I'd rather to take away the fear of being hit by a car. And I know group rides I've never been on a group ride. Like I said, I just started into the sport like a year and a half ago. So everything is it's almost like I have a fear of cycling outdoors, as you were talking about before, with people having a fear of swimming out in the open water. I feel like that's my fear. Something, I need to overcome.
Well, spend some time on Zwift and you'll become a beast on the bike. There's Lionel Sanders, Lucy Charles, Andy Potts, lots and lots of cyclists are spending almost all their time on indoor trainers now.
And it's people just embracing Zwift now. And when I got a CycleOps trainer, and it told me to register for this thing called, I think it's Rouvy, Rouvy, which I love, and I actually enjoy it a lot. But everyone now is just talking about the Zwift, and people seem to love it. I haven't gotten involved in it yet. It's like one of these, added expenses when it comes to the sport. I don't know how much Zwift is, but it's something I probably should look into.
Oh, it's a game changer. I went for the very first ride on it last year, right around this time, maybe a little bit later, just as it was getting kind of cold out. And I'd been hearing about it for 2 years. And there's one guy locally, really good cyclist, but kind of a quirky guy. And he was like, oh yeah, do all my riding in Zwift. Love it. It's a great program. Like, not for me. It's still riding indoors. I went for one ride and I was sold. Done. Huh? Okay. I'll buy the subscription. No question. I'll upgrade my trainer. Yep, I'm in.
So did you look at other, like there's Trainer Road, I think is another one that people use. It's not as social. I've used Trainer Road, but is there, do you like any of the other ones either, or you're just strictly a Zwift guy?
I haven't tried any of the other ones. The thing that I really like about Zwift is that you're in a virtual world, so you have to shift to maintain your watts or your difficulty level. So if there's a 5-minute section where you want like a 4 out of 5 difficulty level and you're going over hills, you're shifting the entire time. And I think I've got a theory that it's that shifting that makes it so mentally engaging, because I know when I just do a set workout where I've just got to hold 4 out of 5 difficulty and don't have to shift, it's just suffering. Yeah. And it feels like it goes by like mud. The time just passes so slowly. But on Zwift, it feels like it goes by the same amount of time as if I was outside.
Yeah, no, it's kind of interesting. I think I'm gonna have to definitely gonna have to look into that. Rouvy actually is kind of interesting because it has like real life courses, and it will, if you have a smart trainer, it will give you feedback. So if you're going up a hill, and I've done the Lake Placid loop a bunch of times on there. But if you go on it, it shows you where you are on the map. And if you're going up a hill, it'll give you resistance. It's kind of interesting, which is great. It's actually great for when you're doing a race where you can't train on the course, but you want to be familiar with the hill profile and whatever, that you can go and just kind of race it in a mock way, and I signed up for the Mont Tremblant half in June of next year. Am I going to see you there?
I haven't decided yet. That's one that I definitely like to go to. That's a beautiful course.
And I heard it was very similar to Placid. And then when I DNF Placid, I wound up signing up for that again too. So I have a half in June and then a full in July. So I'll be probably using the Rouvy again with the Mont Tremblant course just to try to, I hear that's pretty hilly too. To try to get used to it. Have you ever actually have you ever participated in the half there, or?
No, I've never gone and done any racing out that way, but I've got some friends that did it, and a couple of them that did a race right around that area. They're really talented athletes and have done, for example, like a 4:17 half marathon, and one of them finished and he was like 4:51, and I was like, oh geez, you must have had a rough day. And he said, no, it's that hard a course.
It's that hard.
So you've got that to look forward to.
After training, I've done nothing but train with full in mind. So not that training, and I'm going to be training for a full anyway, because I'm doing the Lake Placid in July. The funny thing is, one of the reasons why I never did a half before I did the full, and you probably could appreciate this, is because my fear was, once I finished the half, I'd be so dead that I'd be like, I can't even imagine doing twice this, and it would psych me out for the full. So that was one of the reasons why I never started with the half. But one of my friends told me, and she had done, Jen Bergstrom, she's been on our podcast a couple times. She has done a lot of different triathlons, and she said that when she does a full, her goal is basically to survive and finish. And when she does a half, she actually feels like she can race it. that there's more, technical aspects to it, and planning and race planning and that thing. And I'm assuming that kind of when you do a half, you probably go through the same sort of mental preparation, I guess. Whereas it's not like you're just trying to survive a half. You're really you're putting the time into to be ready and to race it. Yeah.
It's not quite pedal to the metal, but it's got to the point that the first race that I did was very much pace it, slow down, don't blow up. And now with the most recent race that I did, it was basically one step short of blowing up. Like how it's getting to that point where I feel like I could step out of the distance and compete in a longer Ironman event, because once I'm getting to that point where it's like, all right, I can attack this distance, then it's something that I feel more confident about stepping up to the next distance. So I still have some work to go on the run to be able to race the run. I don't have a very good run relative to where all my competitors were at in the Worlds just recently.
Right.
But the swim and the bike has come together pretty well. So now I've got to start working on that run. And then once that comes together, I think be some pretty good times and maybe stepping up to the longer distance.
I'm looking forward to that. I actually, when I watched your last video, wasn't your last video, I guess now, but you posted it. You kind of you clickbaited me a little bit. You're like, oh, I have my next goal. I have it all in mind, and I think. I think if you watch your videos, you're thinking, oh, he's doing the full. He's finally doing the full. And it was just more like, and I appreciate and we had this conversation actually last podcast with my guest, there's a certain, the way we put it was, sometimes the race owns you versus you owning the race and controlling the race. And and I did this with running, which was I had to do a 5K before I did a 10K, and then I did the half, and then I did a full marathon. And I stumbled a little at the half because I had to slow down and walk the last half mile of my first half marathon. And when I finished that race, I felt like that race, even though I finished it, that race owned me. It controlled me. It made me stop before I could finish it the way I wanted to finish it. And I needed to get to the place where I felt comfortable doing the half marathon before I could step up to the full. And so I can fully appreciate that, I guess, that thought process that you have. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And to talk about the goal thing, it's funny that you say that. I guess, looking at it now, I guess everyone was expecting that my goal is going to be stepping up to the next distance. But for me, the goals are more being able to be faster. Like it's process goals as opposed to outcome goals. Like a lot of people say, like, what's your 5-year plan with Triathlon Taren? Like, dude, I'm worried about like tomorrow and having fun over the next week. And I just trust that if I do good things this week, it's probably going to go okay. If I keep doing good things every single week, same thing happens with triathlon training.
Yeah, and I like that approach. I actually, and you do a podcast. Since you do one too, you kind of know. You have some guests that when you finish, you wind up talking to them longer than your actual podcast is. And one person in particular asked me, what is your ultimate, what's the end goal here for Ordinary Marathoner? And I said, I don't really know. I'm just kind of enjoying it. I'm having fun with it, and we'll see where it goes. It's a media outlet, I guess. It's an entertainment venue, but it's I don't know. I don't know. We've done some fundraisers. That's been really good. I don't know if you ever we did a virtual race and we raised a bunch of money for American Cancer Society. I'm proud of that. But I don't know where this goes. I don't know. And it seems like you're kind of you're doing it for the moment. You're enjoying it, and if you're enjoying it, isn't that enough?
I hope so. It is for me.
Yeah.
I'm just doing this to have fun and not have to wear a suit. I successfully.
You have to wear a suit. Unfortunately, it's very small. It says Speedo on it.
Tank top all day today. And if I can have more days like that, I'm happy.
That's it. That's a great goal, I think. Ultimately, that should be the goal, I think, for all of us. Well, listen, man. Thanks for coming on the show, Taren. This was awesome. I appreciate all the time. I know I probably said that this wouldn't last so long, but We did good here on time. We did well.
That's okay. I'm enchanting.
You keep kicking out those videos for me because I'm hooked, and I definitely you got a fan here, and I thank you for that, and I look forward to seeing what you have next in store for us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to wrap it up here, and we'll be back next week with Ben Hinton, who just finished his last marathon over the weekend, and I want to chat with him a little bit. We're going to do that next week. And until then, always remember, when it comes to running, I'm no expert. I'm just ordinary.